a little bit more about how you got here, who you are, and then I'll ask you both to talk a little bit about feminist.
Yeah, I mean, I want to start out by saying thank you so much for holding space for this conversation, and thank you to everyone in the room who's
Speak up.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Great. So thank you everyone for being in this room and not only giving to the cause, but also being so supportive in the idea that this is a new way that we're reaching people. So yeah, I was raised by two entrepreneurs who told me that, and kind of showed me you can build a life out of passion. And what that looks like for me is I've always worn a camera around my neck. I'm deeply empathetic for the people, the planet, and all living things. And frankly, the job that I do now didn't exist until like, I don't know, the last 7 years. And so the way it's like manifested is building a space where we can storytell about people around the world and also connect culture and purpose. So I graduated college and I was an art director in fashion, I was a photographer and all these things, and social media was like coming up. And I was like, wow, social media is pretty cool. Like, what if you used this space and told stories through imagery or connected and made stories like feel really personal? And then something kind of wild happened in 2020. The platform FEMINIST, which most people know what's about, @FEMINIST on Instagram, grew from 1 million followers to 6 million followers entirely organically. It happened in 6 months. And it felt like, you know, people were at home, their voices weren't being represented in politics or just people in charge. We were experiencing a summer of protests and racial reckoning, and we had a really big election on our hands. So when that growth happened, it was, I don't want to give the full story because Aisha is definitely part of this story. But going back to that passion of connecting culture and purpose, it was like, how do we create a space where we can educate people, mobilize them, and give them a way to take impact with the world? So, and you know, this is very much an intergenerational movement. So we asked ourselves, if Ms. Magazine was invented today, where would it be? And we thought, probably would be on social media. So since then have evolved into a full-scale nonprofit media company. And I actually got a chance to ask Gloria Steinem, I think it was right before we went to the DNC, hey Gloria, like I tell everyone, you know, that Ms. Magazine started today, it would be on Instagram. What do you think about that? And she's like, well, you know, we started in newsstands. We just had printouts and gave people information and we're telling stories. And she's like, yeah, if I think about it, and the internet makes sense today. So it wasn't the full exact answer, but it was, that is what's so beautiful about this movement is that, you know, we are connecting, we are building, and we are all in this to create space to share stories. And I'll pass it to Aisha to continue to tell that story.
Did an incredible job sharing our origin story for feminists, and I think to kind of answer your question about sort of how we got into this work, I think about this question a lot because I actually kind of feel like it's like a birthright for me. I feel like I'm like living my passion, I'm living my purpose, which is like a very beautiful thing to be kind of coming into. But that for me really started at like birth, right? I grew up, you know, my mom's white, my dad's black, so also kind of like navigating this world as a black woman, a biracial woman in this world. But my dad was also a Rasta, right? Which is like a deep liberation, like black liberation, like ethos, right? Which one day when hope I get to have a memoir, and I like can't wait to dig into that. But really the pieces of it actually is that both of my parents were musicians and music educators, which is sort of like how they fell in love. And so for me, I like my like entire soundtrack of my life was like really revolutionary music, but also through learning about history and culture and my sense of place in this world through music and, you know, documentaries that my parents forced me to sit and watch. But I always say like I learned about slavery before school by my parents breaking down Bob Marley's Redemption song, right? Or learning about the South African apartheid through a documentary that my mom forced me to watch, but like a bunch of, South African apartheid music, right? And so for me, that was always my North Star, was like, I need to be at this intersection between media and social change and like recognize and understand the like vast power of it. And so like that was kind of what I ended up doing in my career, and I've worked at like really, to talk about legacy media, I worked in traditional publishing at Essence magazine, and then went over to Viacom CBS and MTV, kind of starting the first ever like racial and social justice like division of their social impact team, and then went over to Netflix doing like tech, right? But really it's like storytelling and figuring out how to like empower audiences to make change. And so having the opportunity to like really come in and like co-found Feminist together and like make it a nonprofit and like meeting people online because that's where the audiences are now. And also being able to like not have to deal with the gatekeeping of legacy media, right? And to be able to be like, okay, beyond just like the news, like we understand the headlines, but like what's the call to action? People want to take action. So everything that we do also always includes a call to action, and we're just able to do that much faster, quicker. And I sort of like made that decision to like officially transition to doing Feminist full time when the Dobbs decision happened, and the company that I was at the time like didn't want to touch it, right? And I was like, okay, it's time for me to like do the real work over here. So yeah.
Thank you.